Hey guys, I'm back, and I thought it would be good to review what we did this week. We have a lot of guys missing, but I wanted to go over what we've been studying. What we've been studying is how to build a floor frame and how to build a floor frame assembly. We've discussed the parts of the floor and their functions at this point. So in class here, we built two different buildings. We built a PM class that built this one, and the AM class has built this. But the reason I wanted to shoot this video is I wanted to go over the parts of the floor frame. Some of this stuff is in Canvas for you guys, but I also wanted you to see it in real life. If you look at this piece right here at the bottom, this is referred to as the sill plate, all right? We're looking at basically a model of a floor frame. This particular piece here, this 2x4 on the bottom, is a sill plate, and in the real world, it's normally made out of pressure-treated lumber, and it would either be a 2x6 or a 2x8, and it's typically anchored to the foundation with an anchor bolt, okay? And we talked about that in class. So this is the sill plate, and it would get anchored in the corners. We just have a mock-up here in class, but it would be anchored about a foot in from the corners, and every 4 feet on center, this thing would be lagged to the foundation. That's called your sill plate, all right? And it's anchored to the foundation with your anchor bolts. All right, within our floor system then, we have common floor joists. This is what we refer to as a common floor joist. Ours is just made out of a 2x4, and we overlap them way further than we normally would. In the real world, they're typically made out of a 2x10 as a very common floor joist. It could also be a TJI. It could also be a floor truss. It would be another option. But most of the time, they're made out of 2x10s. In our case, in the lab here, we've just made them out of 2x4s. And we've spaced our 2x4 floor joist 16 inches on center. Okay, so that means from the edge to the center of our floor joist is exactly 16 inches. And from the center of this joist to the center of this joist is exactly 16 inches. Or from the edge to the edge would also be 16 inches. Okay, so again, we have our sill plate anchored with our anchor bolts, and then we go ahead and attach our floor joist to it. But before we start building all our floor joists in, one of the first things that we build is our rough opening of our floor. And the reason we need a rough opening in our floor system is to receive our stairs, all right? We would have stairs or a big opening going from floor to floor, and there's some terms that we need to go over for the stairwell opening as well. In the stairwell opening, we have a header joist here, which is often flush in our stairwell opening with our sill plate. So this is a header joist. This double joist here next to the stairwell opening we refer to as our trimmer joist. All right, it's T-R-I-M-M-E or trimmer joist. Okay, so those joists there will be trimmers. This also is referred to as a header joist. This little joist right here at the end, we call that the cripple joist. Okay, so again, we have our sill plate, trimmers, headers, cripples, and common joist, all right, at this point. There's also something missing in our floor system that we haven't put in yet called bridging. We're going to leave the bridging out of this particular floor, but normally we would have a row of bridging installed in between the clear span here. The clear span is from the inside of the sill plate to the inside of the sill plate. This distance in between here, where the floor joists are up in the air, is referred to as the span of the floor system. All right? And typically, when that exceeds over 8 feet, we put a row of bridging down the center, and that's on your diagram in Canvas. So again, let's just review. We have our sill plate, we have our trimmer stud, or trimmer joist, header joist, cripple joist, common joist. All right, so those are some of the terms, and this is what we've been doing in class. We laid it out 16 inches on center, and there was a technique for that. After we get this all laid out and all installed, the next step would be to install our 4x8 sheets of subfloor. In this case, we're just using 1/2 inch OSB. In the real world, we would use 3/4 inch thick stuff, and it would be tongue and groove. It would have a tongue on one side and a groove on the other. So anyway, that's the parts of the floor, guys. You should study this information and make sure you know it, okay?